and it was chaos. I just remember seeing girls crashing in ditches left, right, and center. Like I was grabbing my brakes, sprinting all day. Was 140 kilometers that first day, and I didn't eat because I was just so overwhelmed is probably the best way to put it.
Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Piaro, and with me is Matt Hansen. Welcome, Matt.
Checking in, sir.
How's it going?
Going great, this is the happiest day of the week for me.
Happiest day of the week, eh? Why is that?
I can just express my, innermost fears and my anxieties about life and just talk about my life and my past.
No. That's a different podcast. We're talking about cycling. And on this episode...
I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah. On this episode, we have Sarah Van Dam. Listeners, you'll likely remember her from the UCI Track Champions League this past fall. That was her second appearance there, but in this fall edition in 2023, she won a scratch race by getting away from the bunch in a dramatic fashion. I spoke with the endurance track cyclist ahead of the Nations Cup that is coming up very soon in Milton, Ontario. But before we listen to my interview with Sarah Van Dam, Matt, let's talk racing. Now, since the last episode of our podcast, Mathieu van der Poel, if you remember when our last podcast came out, Mathieu van der Poel had a paltry one win at E3 Saxo Classic, and I think 10th at Milan-San Remo, so...
Bit of a loser, you might say. Matthew Vander loser.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't going to go that hard on him, but I was just going to be a little flip about how slow his season was, but he's really turned things around.
He might salvage his season yet. Those last couple of wins he's got, they're okay.
Yes, he has a win at Flanders and just recently a win at Paris-Roubaix. And they were both pretty spectacular performances.
One might say they were impressive, I suppose, if that sort of thing impresses you.
He got away at Flanders on the Koppenberg, and that shouldn't really be a surprise in some respects. He won the Koppenberg Cross race there in 2018 as an elite rider, and he also won Koppenberg Cross in 2013 as a junior. He knows those cobbles pretty well. And that helped him seal the deal at Flanders, which in post-race interviews at Paris-Roubaix, Flanders seemed to be harder for him. It's hard for us to judge, but that seemed to really take a toll on him. He felt better at Roubaix, and he got away with a little less than 60 clicks to go.
I mean, he was only going, I think, around 60 in those cobbles. It would have been nicer if he kind of went a little faster, maybe just tried a little harder. But I guess that was sort of impressive as he floated on those cobbles. That was actually unbelievable. He just, he didn't stand up, just kept sitting down, rode away from Mads Pedersen, and they couldn't do anything. That was pretty wild, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think of the teamwork, his team support at Roubaix?
I think, one of the commentators said that basically Alpecin and Koenig are now becoming the new Quick Step, right? And they are. They finally evolved into that because they control the race right, from the midpoint till the end. They had guys in the moves, covering the moves. And I think that was actually obviously of great benefit to him. It's neat to see them become like a little Mapai or whatever, like a little total classic squad dominating everything.
Yeah, with Philipsen there, it's like they have that card to play, and Gianni Vermeersch did so much work. That was so impressive, his efforts.
Yeah. No, that was great.
On the women's side, there were more riders in the mix at the end of both the women's Flanders and the women's Roubaix. There was just a lot more drama. Let's go to Flanders for that. Elisa Longo-Borghini took the win. She came to the line with Katarzyna Niewiadoma and Sharon Van Androoy, and the two members of Lidl Trek, Borghini and Van Androoy, really played things right there. All the while, there was a pack coming down, or let's not say a pack, a group coming down with some heavy hitters, including Marianne Vos, Lotte Kopecky, Puck Peters, and Sylvia Persico. And then over at Paris-Roubaix, It was a pretty nail-biter of a sprint. I thought Lotte Kopecky was boxed in. I thought she was not going to be able to pull off the win, but she came around Elisa Balsamo and Pfeiffer Georgi. And then our queen of the cobbles, Alison Jackson, she didn't have the best race. There was a crash. She finished with a bit of blood on her leg. And still, it was a respectable 27th for the rider from Vermilion, Alberta.
I mean, it was always a tall order that she could repeat, right? In that kind of race. But I mean, I did like her thing at the end when she was cradling the rock or whatever, but it was good. I mean, she was in the mix as much as she could be. And, like I said, defending any race, especially that race where it's just so fraught with bad luck and crashes and drama. I mean, it's like I said, it's a tall order to think you can win back to back. And the few that have, it makes it even more impressive, doesn't it? I mean, it's just wild.
Just to go back to the men's race, that was a debut Roubaix for Riley Pickrell from Victoria. He's on Israel Premier Tech, and he was very excited to line up for Paris-Roubaix, the Hill of the North. He actually found out last minute, shortly after Scheldeprijs, and he was on his way back to Girona, where he's based, but he was told, nope, stay in the region. You're racing Paris-Roubaix. He finished outside the time limit, but he finished. That was a goal of his, and I'm sure he took away some pretty good lessons from that.
I was reading what a pain it is to be, a lot of guys obviously and women want to finish the race, right? Even if they're outside the time limit, they're not going to classify. I was reading what a pain it is because, you're riding 20 minutes, half an hour behind, and everyone's starting to pack up, right? So you're dodging people coming into the line, and, people are taking down banners and all this stuff, but you're still just like, I want to finish. I want to get to the velodrome. So it's even more complicated. But yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it really does show the dedication of the rider and determination. It's pretty special to get into that velodrome, so I totally understand that drive. In other racing news, Derek G is back. He was injured earlier this year at Omloop at Neuseblad, and he's at the Giro d'Abruzzo. That just wrapped up. The first stage wrapped up as we were recording, and he finished the stage, and it's on to more racing for him. Switching to mountain biking.
Well, we forgot one result, actually. Another young, sort of Canadian at Roubaix.
Who's that?
Young Ashlyn Berry.
Oh, of course. That was in the junior men's race. He was 7th.
And he wasn't that. I think he was only about 30 seconds off from first. So, I mean, it's funny. I saw a picture of him on Instagram riding the Roubaix velodrome, and I thought 5 years from now, 6 years from now, he'll probably be doing that again, but as a grown-up.
You're not wrong, I don't think. He is showing a lot of promise. He's been doing it for years. We've seen him crushing local races in the Greater Toronto area. That he is performing pretty darn good in Europe is not so much of a surprise. Right, on to mountain biking. This past weekend was the U.S. Cup in Arkansas, Fayetteville, and Jen Jackson swept the weekend. She won a C1 race, a short track race, and an HC level win, which is just below a World Cup event. So that's great for Jen Jackson. It's a slew of UCI points, which always are in short supply, it seems, for riders in North America. So that's great for Jen Jackson. On the elite men's side, Carter Woods was second in that HC level race. And Raphael Carrier won 2 races at that U.S. Cup. Listeners, you're familiar with Carrier. We spoke about her, and I spoke to her last cyclocross season. She won a slew of cross races, and she seems to be continuing that momentum on the mountain bike side. This episode of the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast is supported by the Number 22 Bicycle Company. Number 22 makes fine titanium road, gravel, and track bikes. Here to tell me and you more about Number 22 are its founders, Mike Smith and Bryce Gracie. Now, when I or anyone else at Canadian Cycling Magazine have reviewed a Number 22 bike, we've been in direct contact with either Mike or Bryce. It might seem like we have access to these guys because we're all deep in the cycling world, but you have access to them too when you order a number 22 bike. So, Mike, tell me what it's like getting a new titanium bike from number 22.
Well, we often find that people think that number 22 is a much bigger organization than we actually are. We're a pretty tiny team, and we build all of our bikes for each customer to order. And the process starts with a conversation directly with either Bryce or myself about what each rider is looking for. And then from there, which of the bikes in our lineup is going to be the best starting point for that rider and the way that they're looking to use the bike.
Yeah, that's how we get started. And from there, we work with you one-on-one throughout your order to help you get through the fit process. And so we offer both custom geometry and stock geometry. We figure out which is going to suit you the best. And from there, we work with the fitter of your choice, choosing the right options for your use case. In a sense, we're tailoring a bike down to the smallest detail to make sure that a number 22 that we build for you, as every bike is made to order, it's the best possible bike we can make for you, the way that you ride and everything you're looking to get out of your bike. We just make sure we get everything on there that you'll need. So you'll have, years and years of enjoyment riding your number 22.
For unrivaled customer experience, check out number 22 at 22bicycles.com, 22bicycles.com. You can learn more about the customer experience and just what goes into getting a cool number 22 bike. And you can even start an order for a bike of your own. Matt, you're going to have to update your style guide.
What style guide?
Oh, don't say that.
I just kind of go by feel. I go by feel.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
Sometimes I capitalize things, sometimes I don't.
Stop before I just end this conversation. Sarah Van Dam, the V in van is capitalized. Now, that vans continue to be a mystery to me, when to capitalize, when not to capitalize, but Sarah Van Dam, the V is capitalized. So update your style guide accordingly. Ahead of the Nations Cup in Milton, Sarah and I had a chat. We talked about some of the races she'd be doing there. She's going to do the elimination, which she's looking forward to. She really likes that race. And we got into the tactics of that one. It's pretty interesting how to survive and thrive in an elimination race. And of course, there's the ever important team pursuit. Last year, Van Dam and her squad were very tactically astute. They let the other team, mess things up for themselves, and the other squad got ripped to shreds while Canada raced on to a bronze. This year, we'll see what the competition is like, how everything plays out as that squad builds towards the Olympics. Now, we mostly think of Sarah Van Dam as a track rider, an endurance track rider, but she is no stranger to the road. Earlier this year, in fact, she has a stage win from the Valley of the Sun. That's a race in Arizona. And she's also been doing more and more racing on the roads of Europe. And I find that interesting, especially her reaction to racing in Europe. I'm sure you can imagine what it is, Matt. The contrast to racing here in North America on the road versus Europe.
Little longer.
Little longer, and also just a lot more chaotic and stressful.
I think if she can survive elimination races, which are completely chaotic, I'm sure, going into cobbled sections and sharp corners probably seem like a breeze, because those elimination races, they look super sketchy.
You've actually anticipated one of my questions, because I was wondering the same thing. Bunch races on the track seem pretty nutty to me. I guess road races in Europe also seem pretty nutty. And Sarah Van Dam breaks down the differences between the two. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Sarah Van Dam. Sarah Van Dam, we're speaking in early April before the final Nations Cup in Milton, Ontario. What is preparation like for that event?
Yeah, so we're all based in Milton for like 2.5 weeks leading up to the competition. And we are on track about 3 to 4 days a week with some specific team pursuit sessions, and then some individual ones as well. And then we kind of do some road in between those.
What's the road element for? What's that giving you or bringing to your track cycling?
Yeah, I find like personally, I require quite a bit of volume in my training, and I think the road really complements the track. So I've always done road training between the track events. But I think in order to be fresh and on top of the game when competition comes, I need to maintain some volume. And it's just a way to increase my volume and make sure I get the individual work I need as well.
Tell me about the significance of the event in Milton. What role does it play with the Olympics happening this summer?
Yeah, so this is one of the last, well, this is the last qualification event for the Olympics. So two of our best Nations Cup results go towards the qualification process. And yeah, this is the last one. So we're really hoping for a great result here. And of course, racing in front of a home crowd is always super special.
Can you tell me a bit more about the qualification process? Are you after results? Are you after a certain amount of points? Like give us a picture of how this works and what athletes are trying to achieve at these events.
Yeah, so you get points based on your result at the event. For us, we need a top eight performance, but really we're striving for much more than that. Top eight would make us like secure and confident that we're qualified for the Olympics. But yeah, we're at home. We're confident with this track. I think we're all coming together really well, and we really want to hit that podium again like last year.
Now, when you say we, we're talking just to help listeners along. We're talking the women's team pursuit squad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you were, I believe, third last year. You got bronze last year.
Yes, we did.
Right. And that team was together in Adelaide at the First Nations Cup, I believe. And that was a rather challenging situation. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so Adelaide was our First Nations Cup. Things were looking really, really good. And then as things can happen, 2 days out from our first race, qualifications for the team pursuit, we had a crash in one of the open training sessions. And unfortunately, Erin Atwell, one of our riders, she broke her collarbone. So we were kind of on our back foot there, and we had to completely rejig the puzzle. And I'm really proud of the way we were able to overcome that. But it definitely was a challenge, and it definitely tested our limits.
Now, how's Erin doing? Will she be back in Milton, or is it too soon?
Yeah, she'll be back racing with us.
And so tell me about the rest of the lineup in the team pursuit. And also, can you give us an idea of what the roles each rider plays during a team pursuit race?
There's 4 positions, and P1 is the starter. P1 and P2 often they contribute more on the front end of the race, and then P3 and P4 they often have more of a role in the second half of the race. It's quite a different sensation in each position, and you have to train differently to ride each position as well. I used to jump around quite a bit, but as we've been fine tuning more and more, your training becomes more specific to the position you're in.
And what position are you usually in?
So in Adelaide, I rode P3, but in Milton, I may be riding P4. So you can see P3 and P4 switching a little bit because they're more, I would say, aerobic. I mean, of course, there's the anaerobic component, but you don't have to be so quick off the start line in those positions, whereas P1 and P2, you definitely have much more of an anaerobic load.
Right, right. So P1 and 2, those riders, they have to get ahead of the others and then keep the pace going right from the start, I gather. And then is it 3 and 4 are the more diesels could we say, who just have to keep things chugging well into the latter stages of the event?
Yeah, like P1 and P2, there's such a significant load off the start, and I would say P2 especially, you're having to accelerate up to the start, and then there's not much time to recover before you're actually hitting the front and having to take your pull. Whereas P3 and P4, you start, which is a heavy load, but then you're able to recover, breathe, and then take your pull.
Do the riders in position 1 and 2, do they ever, like, tease the P3 and P4 saying, "You guys got it easy, you can recover"? They're doing all the hard work at the beginning. Is there any back and forth, any splits between the group?
We've actually tested out each other's positions before, I think just to gain respect, for how each rider actually feels in the lineup because, yeah, sometimes you think in this effort, "Oh, this person has it easy," but then you go and try in that position and you're like, "Oh, whoa, this is very different."
Nice. So everyone knows how it feels no matter where you are in the race.
Yeah, we all have respect for each other, that's for sure.
You mentioned doing some work on the road. Now, you actually do more than just ride on the road to complement track. You race on the road, and you've been doing so for many years now. Can you tell me what some of the challenges are with balancing both road racing and track cycling?
Yeah, so I'm currently racing with the DNA pro cycling on the road, and I would say road complements the track quite a lot, but I don't find that the track complements the road sometimes at the same level. And I think the track can require quite a long preparation camps, which can be challenging when I go back to road racing and I am doing these longer races. So it's definitely a challenging balancing act, but I think when it's done right, it's definitely possible and you can be successful in both.
Can you tell me more about how you work with DNA Pro Cycling, your road team, to schedule things for the road and for the track?
Yeah, so I sit down with them at the beginning of the year and we kind of go through what the year is going to look like and look at target races that they want me at and that I want to race at as well. I think this year being an Olympic year, that's my number one goal and they've been really supportive of that. So they know that I need to go to these qualification races to be in selection for the Olympics and to qualify the team. So they're always there, to support me in both disciplines, both road and track.
In 2023, you raced quite a bit in Europe and did some stage races on the road. And you returned actually to Europe this past March. You raced in the Tour de Normandie Féminin. And tell me about that event and anything that might have been easier or that you might have learned from having done it the previous year.
Yeah, so last year, like you mentioned, was my first year on the road in Europe. I've been racing on the road since I was 11, but it had always been in North America. So I'd always heard the rumors of, oh, like racing is so different in Europe. And I was kind of excited to go experience that. So yeah, last year, Tour de Normandy was my first time over there, and it was chaos is probably the best word to describe it. I just remember seeing girls crashing in ditches left, right, and center. Like I was grabbing my brakes, sprinting all day. The first time I raced was 140 kilometers that first day, and I didn't eat because I was just so overwhelmed, is probably the best way to put it. I was able to have a few more race opportunities over there last year, but still pretty minimal. This year, I came back and it was a little bit different. We had 4 stages, so we started with a time trial, which was a whole nother challenge for me because a time trial in the US is usually an L with a 1 U-turn, but in Europe, the course was incredibly technical, and that's something I just had never experienced, so that was quite a good learning opportunity for me, and then we went into 3 days of, long, hard racing, which, I feel like I improved each day. I pulled off a 13th place, which was nice, and I truly love it over there. I really am looking forward to more opportunities.
Now, you're no stranger to being in bunches, like whether that's on the track or, as you said, North American road rides. Um, what makes the pack in Europe? What brings that extra chaos to the European road racing scene? Is it the technical roads? Is it the aggression with which the riders race? What is that extra ingredient there?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the things you just mentioned of the technical aspects of the courses. I think the peloton sizes are much larger, and the level of racers is also increased as well. So I think, yeah, all that brings a whole another challenge to the racing, but it makes it so much more exciting, in my opinion.
Returning actually to North America and going back to February, you and your team took on the Valley of the Sun stage race in Arizona. It featured 3 stages and you won the second stage. Tell me about that win and how it came together.
Yeah, so the road race is a circuit, and there's a small hill, and then it's a pretty fast rolling course. And yeah, I would say being a team pursuit rider and just coming from the track as well, my 3 minute power is pretty good, and that is kind of what was required on this course as it was a drag uphill into a sprint. So it started from the bottom, and yeah, my teammates helped position me into the right spot, and yeah, I was able to pull off the win there, and that was a super exciting way to start off the season before heading over to Europe. And yeah, the previous day as well was the time trial, and I was really pleased with that result as well.
That first stage, the time trial, you were fifth, and the stage three, you finished second. I believe that was a really close sprint near the end.
Yeah, yeah, it was. We, Marleas and I, were very close in the 2nd and 3rd day, so, yeah, she's really strong, and it was a really fair battle.
Nice. And you ended up finishing third overall. I'm going to continue to go back in time now to last November when you competed in the UCI Track Champions League, and that was for the second time. What does that event mean to a track cyclist?
It's a really unique opportunity to be able to race consecutive weekends in a row on the track. Usually, there's very few opportunities for track racers. Like we see, there's only 3 Nations Cups in a year, and then we have World Championships. So, especially for us Canadians, we don't get over to Europe very much to race some of the smaller track races that are available. So, I think this opportunity that the track league provides, I gained so much experience participating in racing. Yeah.
I find that answer really interesting because I've interviewed your teammate, Matthias Guillemette, and he said something very similar that this Track Champions League is like this, in a way, an intensive study period. You just cram in so much racing on the track.
Yeah, we're racing the same people every weekend, and yeah, the same races. So we race the elimination race and the scratch race. And then also we have a points race prior to the evening starting.
Now tell me about your win in the scratch race. That was in the third round of the Champions League.
Yeah, in Paris. So I had a second the previous year at the final round in London. And yeah, this year I really wanted to race for the win. And I just felt the moment and I just went and put my head down. And yeah, I was in disbelief, shock. I was so excited to have actually to have pulled that off.
hmm Now, your win, you got off the front. You were well ahead of the pack. How did you make that call to go for it ahead of time and not wait for the sprint?
Yeah, I think the more I get opportunities to race, the more I realize the harder the race, I think, plays to my strengths more. And there's some really strong sprinters in that field. And I think my opportunity to win the race wouldn't be to wait until the finish to sprint in those final laps. So I had sensed a moment where it was hard and someone swung up and I just had the momentum and I decided that this was my time and this is when I was going to go for it.
Now, going back even farther into your Track Champions League history, in 2022, and I think this was also during a scratch race, you had a crash and you got a toothpick-sized splinter in your arm. Was that the first time you had a piece of the track lodged under your skin?
Yes, I have to say that was the first time I've had a large splinter in my body.
Ugh, I mean, it does happen every once in a while, but how frequently do you think it happens that a piece of the track gets chipped up into a rider?
I think it happens pretty frequently, to be honest, when there are crashes. Just the way you slide on the wood, it often can pick something up. And then also the burns that come along with it are pretty painful.
Eesh, definitely, definitely. As a rider, you train, you compete, but you also dance. I'm thinking of your performances on social media, in particular with your teammate and fellow Track Champions League teammate as well, Maggie Coles-Lister. How do you feel about the dancing component of cycling?
Maggie and I started making reels, I guess, back on my first year at Track Champions League, and I think it's just a nice light way to have fun, and it gives me another opportunity and outlet to express myself and have some fun. I think I am a pretty serious person a lot of the time, so it's nice to let loose, and it's a good time for sure.
Who does the choreography?
So I often am the one who sends Maggie these reels on Instagram, and I'm like, "Oh, we should do this one. We should do this one." So I usually pitch the idea, and she'll say yes or no, or well, yeah, we can try this. So yeah.
Can you tell me about dancing with another one of your teammates, Dylan Bibick? There's a video of you and Maggie and Dylan, and he seems a little less than enthusiastic about participating.
Yeah, that one took a little bit of convincing. But we were there with Harry Bryson as well, and we were trying to get him in it, but he said no, but we were able to convince Dylan. So yeah, we were quite pleased.
Do you have a favorite track discipline?
I would say my favorite track discipline would be the Omnium, but that's closely followed by the team pursuit as well.
What do you like about the Omnium?
I love bunch racing and I love how the Omnium involves 4 different events that accumulate points for the end ranking.
Hmm. Remind us what those events are again.
Yes, you start with the scratch race and then it's tempo elimination and then the points race.
Do you have a preferred one in there that is the one you like more than the others?
I love the elimination race.
I find the elimination race, well, fascinating in terms of strategy. Are there different strategies for doing well in the elimination race? Like, do you have a certain kind of tactic that you like to employ?
Yeah, I think that you can look at that race in 2 ways. You can race it from the front or you can race it from the back, sometimes called the devil. I personally like racing it more from the front. It's more of a consistent effort, whereas racing from the back, it's more on and off, where you're just trying to come around that last rider in the straight every time.
Racing from the back just seems riskier to me, but are there risks from trying to race from the front?
Oh, for sure. I think, yeah, the back, it is definitely risky, but you also have, if you do it right, you also can tuck in and get draft and be in recovery between the bell laps. But being in the front, you can also experience the washing machine, which you're at the front and then you're suddenly at the back. So yeah, it's an interesting race and it definitely keeps you on your toes and you have to be so aware of what's going on.
You have done one Omnium at a Nations Cup, and that was in Milton last year in 2023. Do you think you'll be doing the Omnium here at home again?
Unfortunately, not this year. Maggie will be racing that one, but I'll definitely be there cheering, and I'll be racing the elimination race.
So the non-Omnium elimination race is where you'll be.
Yeah, it's a standalone elimination race, and that's on the same day as the team pursuits, which is on the 12th, the first day of racing.
Your two races are on the same day.
It's a jam-packed schedule, and in Australia this year at the Nations Cup, we're actually all 3 rounds of the team pursuit are in one day. So you qualify, you do first round, and then if you make finals, you're also racing, and then that's followed by the elimination. So I could have potentially 5 races with qualifications if there's one for the elimination as well, all in one day.
That sounds like a heavy day.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Sarah Van Dam, what are your hopes for the rest of this cycling season?
For sure. The Olympics are my number one goal. And then I'll be heading over to Europe more on the road for some more road racing, which I'm really looking forward to.
And that roadblock, that'll be starting in August? It'll be after Paris?
Yes, yeah. So after Paris, then I would stay over in Europe and race in Egmont, which is a 1 day, and then followed with Ardèche, which is 7 days, which I also raced last year.
Well, Sarah, thank you for your time and good luck with all the cycling challenges, track and road, that you have lined up for this year.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's the episode. It is written and edited by me, Matthew Pioro. I had help from Matt Hansen.
You sure did.
Thank you, Matt. I also had help from Terry McCall. This episode of the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast is produced by Adam Killick. I think he does something else.
What? Tell us. Suspense is killing me.
No, he does the music, and I really do dig the music he puts together for this episode.
Did not know that.
You didn't, eh?
News to me.
Also, thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. All this talk with Sarah Van Dam has got me excited about the Nations Cup. I'm headed there shortly, and we'll be talking to athletes as much as I can. And Matt, you're busy, I know, on multiple projects for the website, reporting on races, testing gear.
I'm waiting to hear when you and I are going out for a bicycle ride.
Yeah, it's crazy. The weekends are filling up quick. It's coming soon. I feel it.
I'll mark my calendar.
Yeah. Stay tuned. All right, thanks again, Matt. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber to this podcast already, so you don't miss an episode. Also, we do a lot of stuff, not only in print, but online. Matt's hard at work keeping that website going. We have a special members area there, in fact, so you can read back issues of the magazine, and you can also see some of the chatter amongst Matt and I and some of our other colleagues here at Canadian Cycling Magazine. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Ride safely, and we'll talk to you later.